All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live session. So tonight we are discussing the early access process to kindergarten and first grade in the Douglas County School District. I want to let you know that we are streaming simultaneously on Facebook and YouTube, and this session is being recorded. So it's going to be available to view later, both on the DCAGT website as well as the DCSD website. And I am Becca Koster. I'm going to be your moderator this evening. So before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about DCAGT. So DCAGT stands for the Douglas County Association for Gifted and Talented. We are a 501c3 nonprofit that's an all-volunteer organization. We're made up of family members, educators, and community members, and we are an affiliate of the Colorado Association for Gifted and Talented. So we provide information, we share resources and our experiences with others of what has worked well for our gifted students. So I want you to know that we're here to help those of you who have just started on your journey in giftedness. So for those of you who are looking to learn more about early access process and have little ones, as well as those who have been on your journey for a while. We often do talk to families about how to advocate for their students by building strong, long-lasting relationships with teachers and gifted education facilitators. So I just want you to know that you're welcome to reach out to us. We want to be able to help you. So in order to honor your time, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Heather Groff. She is a team lead in gifted education in the Douglas County School District. And Heather is going to be presenting the first half of our session. And during the second half, we will be open for question and answers. So welcome, Heather.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Early Access and the Young Gifted Child. As Becca said, I'm Heather Groff. I am with the Douglas County School District as one of the gifted education team leads. Early access and primary education, so that preschool through second grade is one of my passion areas. So I hope to share some information with you tonight. All gifted education lives in Colorado law under the Exceptional Children's Education Act, known as ECEA, and that covers students from the age of 4, since we participate in early access, through 21, whose aptitude, competence, abilities, talents, and potential are so exceptional that they require special provisions to meet their educational needs. The link that is provided here, and you'll be provided a copy of the slides later, can take you right to CDE if you want to get more information. Early access for highly advanced gifted children under the age of 6 is for 4 or 5-year-olds, so 4-year-olds to go into kindergarten or 5-year-olds to go into first grade, who qualify as a highly advanced gifted child to access school 1 year early. So here are some of the parts of this House bill that kind of give you some parameters around what the qualifications are. So the child has to be in the top 3% or less of his or her gifted peer group. They have to be motivated to learn, ready for advanced placement, and exhausted the resources of preschool. It is really not designed for students who have October birthdays, who didn't make the cutoff. It's really for those highly gifted students, and it doesn't permit early access to all gifted students. So your child may end up being gifted or qualifying as gifted, but not necessarily to the rigorous standards of early access. So let's show you a slide. Oh, there it is. Okay, show you a slide about the qualifications. So an early access student must perform at the 97th percentile or higher on achievement testing, which is reading, math, and writing. Also, the 97th percentile or higher on a cognitive assessment. They generally are 2 or more years above their same-aged peers in their performance, such as reading levels or math capacity. And then their behavior, they need to be ready for school and ready to be in an advanced environment. So for Douglas County School District, the early access process is open from January 1st to April 1st each school year. April 1st is a hard deadline, and that is set by the state. So we cannot accept applications after the April 1st deadline. Parents initiate the process through our website at DCSD, and they complete an application and an observation survey. It's really important to note that the requirements are that you must apply in the school district where you live. We have students who live outside of Douglas County but want to choice into one of our schools. Maybe they live right on the line to another county, but you must apply in the school district where you live. And then if you apply there and are accepted in there, then we would work with you for early access placement. Preschool teachers fill out the observation form. Parents submit work samples for a portfolio. There is a fee for cognitive and achievement testing. We have you see our psychologist for that, and we do have financial aid available if you need it. Outside testing is not accepted for early access. Achievement testing falls into that reading, writing, and math category. And then we do school readiness through observation. And this year, in addition, we would be doing teacher interviews. So the next question is, how do I know if my child is gifted? So let's talk about some of the characteristics of young gifted children. So this is certainly not an exhaustive list. There are samples in various places where you can find characteristics. This particular list is also included in our resources at the back, where you can have a little bit more extensive list. But basically, children who are able to play for long periods of time in intense concentration in areas of their interest. That doesn't mean that they have long attention spans for things they're not interested in, but something that they're really into, they will sit and concentrate and work on that for some time. They have a preference for older playmates. They may want to hang out with their teachers instead of their peers in preschool. They also like to be with adults. Many of them have early and extensive vocabulary, so they can be very verbal and sound like a little adult. They have a good memory. They are curious about many, many different things. They ask thoughtful questions, so not just the simple why necessarily, but more even deeper questions, or they make connections that link two different topics together. High level of activity and an unusual alertness. This is particularly notable in very young children, even babies that have a very high activity level and unusual alertness. Rapid learning. So they don't need many repetitions to learn how to do something. They can solve problems in unique ways. They often have an excellent sense of humor, or are able to kind of cue into adult humor. They have a very keen sense of observation. There may be a lot of sensitivity in different areas, and sensitivity can be described in many different ways. But when you think about your senses, they may be sensitive to sound. They might be picking up on what's going on in a room. They may be sensitive to feel, or are seeking sensitive. They're sensory seeking, or sensory avoiding. And then they have the capacity to do abstract reasoning, which we don't normally think of in early childhood because they're really concrete at this age. And like I said, this is not exhaustive, but this just gives you an idea of some characteristics. And then thinking about, we have a diverse community, and there are cultural and linguistic differences that can impact the way students show their gifts and talents. So, for example, sometimes students are used to being very adult directed. And so when we say they show a great sense of curiosity and they might want to explore on their own, in some cultures, they may be more wanting to mentor after someone else, following adult lead. Individual performance may not be a big value over group problem solving. And so they may be extremely collaborative very early on, wanting to work together and figuring out how to solve problems. They may demonstrate creativity in storytelling, dancing, art, any variety of different ways. Humor is also culturally based. So what is humorous in one culture may be seen differently in another culture. And so these are things that we try to question parents on when we are looking for giftedness in early childhood. Thinking about what students can do in their home language. We have many emerging bilinguals in our community, and think about that while they're taking on English, they may be able to do a wider variety of things in their native language. So reading, singing, counting, and then how that all plays into that. There's also kids who very early on have that keen sense of justice, which is often a gifted trait in and of itself. But it can often mean that they avoid self-advocacy. And that's one of those things when they're in preschool, we want them to be able to go up and show the teacher what they can do. And some kids will kind of just sit in the background. So another really important part of giftedness in general, but particularly in early childhood, is the asynchronous development. And NAGC gives this definition. And basically what asynchronous development is, that you're thinking about a child that's kind of falling in different places in different areas of their lives. So they may be physically 4 years old. They may be cognitively able to converse and solve problems and read and do math at maybe a 3rd or 4th grade level. They might be able to have some social interactions, which may be slightly above or slightly below their area. And then maybe physically, though, they're behind in some of those gross motor activities, or maybe they have areas where their behaviors are not quite caught up to even that 4-year-old capacity, or it could be in any variety. It's sort of like when you go to your pediatrician and they show you the scale where your child falls in height and weight. And that's sort of how this asynchronicity works. So you can do Like, you know, I'm 50% here, I am 20% here, and figuring it out that way, that no child develops all areas at the same time. All right, so the big question we hear the most is, what can I do at home? So here are some tips on some things that are a great idea for home. So when your child shows an interest in something, pursue that area. Read with them until they're able to read on their own, finding lots of books on that story. When my children were young, we called them field trips, and we would go do things depending on their experiences. So if my child is into dinosaurs, we might go to Dinosaur Ridge and take a hike on a weekend to kind of go find some of those dinosaur prints. Provide them with hands-on experiences. So anything that you can do to kind of keep feeding that interest is a wonderful place to start. Encourage creativity and exploration. Bring in art if that's something that they like to do, drawing and writing and learning about all different kinds of things. Try to make real life connections. So thinking about math, for example, many kids can be advanced in math, but then when it comes to, when it comes to making real life connections to math, that's a little bit harder. So for example, you can bring in clocks and figuring out time and building that sense of time with them. That's something that our gifted kids need desperately as they get older as well. Bringing in money and explaining how things work and changing pennies for nickels, for dimes, and kind of helping with that. Then praising the effort and not the smarts. Kids who hear, oh, you're so smart, oh, you know this, you're so smart, often at some point feel like when they hit a challenge that they're not smart. And so what's really important is focusing on the effort. Wow, I love how you spent so much time researching something that you were so interested in. I really appreciate how you're working so hard on this art project or whatever. Focusing on the effort rather than the intuitive smarts will help that child build a sense of efficacy moving forward. Developmentally appropriate activities. So thinking about focusing on that deeper learning rather than rote skills. And this is one thing we see a lot with gifted kids and high achieving students that come into school and they already know how to count, they already know their ABCs, they're learning how to do adding and subtracting, and now they're working on, you know, 3-digit numbers and that kind of thing. What's really important in early childhood is to go deep with these concepts. So it's rather than learning all of the addition facts and then moving into multiplication, it's really important to connect those skills with other things. Talk about story problems in math, you know, bring up different situations where they have to think more deeply, and then bring those in rather than just focusing on adding and subtracting or just writing or, you know, making words. Write for a purpose. Write notes to grandparents. Make a to-do list. Those kinds of things. Write with, you know, they can make a story, start writing that way. But rather than focusing on the specific rote skills, take it deeper. Scaffolding, which in the education world means very similar to how you would have a ladder for support. You figure out where the child is and if they're cognitively way advanced. So, for example, a reader, a child who can read a first grade level book might not necessarily, that might not be challenging enough for their brain. So when you're doing read alouds, you are bridging that gap by providing some of that cognitive challenge. Sometimes students in early childhood, their fine motor skills are not where they want them to be. And children see what they want in their head and they think, oh, I should be able to do this, this writing. I should be able to write these sentences because I can say them, I should be able to write them. And they may not be able to quite do that yet. So being able to record their thinking and then having other ways of them showing while you build those skills. I mean, I'm not saying you definitely need to build those lower skills, but what we do in school is we figure out where their needs are and where their challenge needs to be, and then we build bridges in order to meet those two. Engaging in questioning. So one of the things that students ask, little children are famous for why, right? And instead of answering their questions, ask your own questions. Keep thinking about how you can help them to become more efficient in thinking deeply. So they have a problem, they ask you a question, instead of fixing it or solving it, ask them, well, how could we figure that out? What could we do? And then kind of lead them into the direction that they can figure it out on their own, or that you can come to a point where then you can help answer those questions. Support them in finding the answers to the questions. I find it hilarious when I go into classes and speak with kindies and first graders, and I ask them a question and they say, oh, well, we could ask Siri, which is great. It's great that they have that, but also thinking of other ways that we could answer questions. How could we explore to figure out the answers ourselves? Find like-minded peers. This is one that very young students have a really hard time with. If they're in a regular classroom with regular preschool kids and they happen to be academically advanced, they may not feel like interacting so much with their peers. Sometimes they might. There are things that they can benefit with socially in that arena, but thinking about trying to connect them with other peers. So if they have an interest in something, maybe find a group that has that same interest as well, so that they can be surrounded with other kids like them. And then talk to your preschool teacher. Help your teacher understand your child. They may see something completely different than what you see in your class or in your home than they see in the classroom, and letting them know what you see and advocating for additional suggestions of what you can do with your child will help your teacher know your child better and help you as well. All right. Sorry, my computer's being a little slow here. All right, let's go. All right, so we have some resources for you. The asynchronous development is a handout that is provided by NAGC. NAGC is the National Association for Gifted Children, and they have a lot of suggestions. That it's a lot of what we use in school for guidelines. Early Childhood by NAGC as well also is kind of a handout, a two-page front and back page that you can use. Helping your gifted child succeed, another really great little article. And then how do I help my child develop his or her potential? So these are all NAGC resources. And then I have a few resources over here on the side that I personally like. Mensa for Kids has a reading program that's from like kindergarten all the way through high school. And they have a K-3 reading list. So if you're looking for books that gifted kids really enjoy, you might want to check out that reading list. Wonderopolis is a website that really is just about asking questions, and it has little activities and things. So if your child is wondering about something, you can put it in there and see if you can find some answers. And then it will give you also some suggestions of other places you can go to find more information. And the It's Okay to Be Smart YouTube videos. So if you don't mind your children watching some of these videos, they have some great information on topics that kids find really interesting. All right, so we'll be moving into our Q&A session, and you can drop your questions into the chat, and our moderator will ask the questions. I'm going to give you our contact information. So our fantastic program assistant, Christina, is available. There's her phone number and her email address. The main email address for our department is gifted.education@dcsdk12.org. And then there is my information as well. And then this is Becca's information, so you can get in touch with her and DCAGT as well. And then, Becca, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Heather. So as Heather stated, we are now open for questions. And as we do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring on someone you all haven't seen yet. So this is Natasha Strayer. She is the Director of Advanced Academics and Gifted Programming for the Douglas County School District. And so please go ahead and type your questions in the chat, and then we will get to answering those as soon as they come in. And for those of you who might not be comfortable typing your questions in such a public forum, you are more than welcome to email info at dcagt.org, and the question will come to an email box that I have access to, so I can read it there as well. All right, so with that, let's see what we have. All right, so we have our first question, and this question is from Anna. So when a child is identified as gifted prior to second grade, what are the educational options if you don't want them to skip a grade? We have a son in the Discovery program, but that doesn't start until second grade.
Okay, so can I just clarify? The question was if the child was identified as gifted prior to second grade?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So we have different levels of gifted programming within our district. So the first step is really to talk to the GT facilitator at your neighborhood school. And every single school, including our charter schools, has a GT facilitator that you could talk with. Grade acceleration is one type of situation. Discovery is its own separate type of programming, but there are various levels of services that you can get within each school. So I guess it's really hard to answer that question kind of generically, but we can help you if you want to contact us, through email. We can help you navigate that if you'd like. Natasha, would you add anything else?
No, I think that it's like with many children, pretty individualized. So we do have gifted education facilitators at each of our neighborhood schools to help you and to help think through the types of programming that can both benefit your child through enrichment or depth and complexity instead of the self-contained discovery program. So we work with families to provide a continuum of programming services. So I think in addition to what Heather said, the first steps would really be to connect with the GT facilitator at your child's school and perhaps have a conversation about the strengths and the needs that you are seeing at home, and then also how you can partner with the GT facilitator at the school and also your child's teachers to create those rich opportunities in the general education setting at this point.
Great, thank you both. And to find out who the GT facilitator is at your school, if you don't know, you can go to the Douglas County School District website. And if you click on the A to Z, look for gifted education. And in there, you will find a nice, beautiful, I'm going to call it like a spreadsheet that lists the schools, who the GT facilitator is, their contact information, so you can really connect with that person. And as I said at the very beginning, one of the things that DCAGT really advocates for is when you need to advocate for your student to really work to build those relationships with the teacher and the GT facilitator so that you all can work together to get your student what it is that they need. All right. So with that, we will move to the next question. And this question is from Corey. And she says, my daughter was twice exceptional in elementary school. Does that identification end of IEP services become unavailable? So my interpretation of that, and if I am incorrect, Corey, please let me know, is that does the identification of twice exceptional end when IEP services are no longer needed?
Okay. So what twice exceptional means is that your child has been identified and is receiving services through an individual education plan, an IEP or 504, and has also been through the identification or gifted identification process, and also has an advanced learning plan. So those two things live in totally different worlds. So if your child ends up going off the IEP, that does not impact the ALP, the advanced learning plan, and your child's gifted education identification. Does that make sense?
It does to me. So, Corey, if you need additional clarification, just let me know.
I also just want to add that we did our Facebook Live session. The last one was focused on twice exceptionality. And so you may want to access that Facebook Live session just to get a general overview of twice exceptional services and identification specific to Douglas County School District. And that may, there's some resources linked there, and there are resources linked on our website for families to better understand the nature and needs of our students who have twice exceptional needs.
All right, thank you. All right, so our next question is from Fiona, and the question is, so we have a pre-K student and are considering homeschool due to giftedness. We're already doing second grade math and twice exceptionality. How would we get access to testing if choosing homeschool?
Okay, so We do not provide testing outside of the school district. You could pursue, so if you're interested in early access, you would go through the early access process, and we do provide testing during the early access process. If you are not wanting to pursue that, then for homeschool, we really don't provide any direct services to students. So you may want to talk to an educational psychologist that you can connect with your pediatrician to help you find an educational psychologist where you can do testing that way. If you are connected with a preschool in our district, then the preschool teachers could get in touch with us, with our department, and we work through the process that way as well.
All right, wonderful. And Fiona, if you are interested in access to testing, the Colorado Association for Gifted and Talented does have a list of educational psychologists that do that sort of private testing on their website. And their URL is coloradogifted.org.
Becca, may I just add a little bit to that too? Sorry, I don't need to keep jumping in. I noticed in the question that she mentioned twice exceptionality as well. So I just wanted to reiterate, if your child has been tested for special education services through Child Find in pre-K, that testing could be used to determine some additional needs and gifted needs that your child may have. So I'm not sure, as Heather said, if you are connected to a Douglas County preschool, but if you are, I would start with, you can reach out to us via email, and we can talk more through the process of how we can connect with you and perhaps look at the testing you already have to help determine some of your child's potential needs.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so our next question is from Gaia, and if I didn't pronounce that correctly, my apologies. That question is, can you talk a bit more about Discovery program at Northridge in particular, and the benefits or disadvantages of doing that versus regular GT programming, assuming that our daughter qualifies or / gets in?
Okay, so so I guess I'll start, and then I'm going to have Natasha jump in here and help me out as well. So Discovery programming is available for 2nd grade through 6th grade, and is at Northridge and 2 of our other elementary schools, one in Parker and one in Castle Rock. So the Discovery program provides all-day intensive programming for gifted students, where there generally is an acceleration in math, reading, and writing. The difference between that and staying in a general education classroom is that, again, depending on where you are, what school you're in, your services may look a little bit differently. There could be, your child could be moving up into another classroom for some classes. Potentially, your child could be getting differentiated work and assignments and instruction from the classroom teacher. They could be receiving some pull-out or push-in support with the GT facilitator. So there are just different ways. I would say that every gifted child is different, and we have many different ways to meet each child's needs. The gifted program fits really well for some people and not necessarily for everyone. Some people do really well in their neighborhood schools. So it's really one of those kind of personal issues where we would have to kind of help walk you through that. Natasha, would you want to add anything?
Yes, I am going to add, we also did a Facebook Live session specific to the Discovery Program. So I know Becca will share links to previous sessions, but that might be a good place to start to explore the Discovery Program. I want to honor the time tonight to talk specifically about supporting our primary students. And I know that the Discovery Program starts in 2nd grade, but as Heather said, our Discovery Program is our most intensive gifted programming that we offer, and it is designed for those students who have exhausted the resources available through typical gifted programming at their neighborhood schools. So as she mentioned, it is a full-day self-contained program and is designed specifically, again, for those students who really need all-day, full-day differentiated instruction and programming that would be unreasonable to expect to be delivered through the resources available at a neighborhood school in a general education setting.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Our next item is from Corey, and she is asking about an ALP for her high school daughter. So I think with that, Corey, I would recommend, again, going and contacting the GT facilitator at your daughter's school, and then working with that GT facilitator and asking your ALP questions there. All right.
Becca, can I've been scrolling because I'm multi-devicing right now. So I've been scrolling through the questions on my phone, and I would like to go back and add perhaps to Fiona's question. I saw an addendum where she was talking about not being sure, not thinking that early entrance to 1st grade, perhaps I think she'll be in kindergarten in the fall. If you have any suspicion at all that your child may need that level of intensity of gifted programming, I would encourage you to go through the early access process. That will be that is a readily available opportunity to provide some of the detailed information through the district that you may need to help make educational decisions as she ages. And I want to reiterate that even if she is recommended for early entrance, it is still a parent's decision whether to opt into that early entrance or not. So if you suspect that your child may have needs that are that significant as far as acceleration, even if you choose to homeschool next year or in the future, going through that process will provide you some of the information that you'll need, not only for your homeschooling, but also for educational decisions should you return to a Douglas County school.
Great, thank you. All right. And I was just putting something in the chat for the link to the Discovery Program Live that we did in November. So I am trying to scroll back up and figure out where we were in the questions.
Okay, perfect. And I'll add on to your answer for, I think it was Corey, who asked about high school programming. I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but we did also do a session on gifted programming at the secondary level for middle school and high school. So when Becca links the recordings, or you can go to, you're on this website, I think you can access the recordings on the Facebook page, correct, Becca?
Yes.
Okay, so there's one a few weeks ago, or maybe it was first semester, specific to secondary programming, which will provide some additional resources for you as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and link all the videos that we've done so far, so that you all can listen at your leisure. um, we've discussed executive functioning, the discovery program, the basic identification and referral process for giftedness, the transitions to middle and high school, and then a general overview about the gifted education in Douglas County. So hopefully that additional information will help all of you. We're really trying to make sure that we can provide you all with the information that you need, and hopefully a way that you can access it in the times that you have. I know that we're all busy and juggling a lot of different things. All right, so with that, I believe that is currently the end of our questions. So if anyone else has any additional questions, please go ahead and type them. I'm going to go over real quick and see if anyone has sent an email.
Right,
Heather,
Becca,
I'll ask a question, Heather.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't. Is she freezing?
I
Maybe not.
was going to respond really quick. I brought up my phone, my Facebook on my phone, and I see that Fiona asked, but you don't accept outside testing, so how would that work? So I just want to clarify that we don't accept outside testing for early access. However, we do accept outside testing in K-12.
All right, great. And Fiona has another question, and the deadline for early access is when?
April 1st. And that is a non-negotiable hard deadline set by CDE, the Colorado Department of Education. So.
Wonderful. And Fiona, you can get all the information at the DCSD website to apply for early access. It's all there. And if you need to get a link or anything, you can feel free to contact any of us and we can provide that for you. All right. Does anyone else have, oh, okay, here we go. We have another question. So this question is, could you please help me understand the difference between an ALP and gifted and talented? My apologies if you've already explained it. I might have missed it.
No, that's okay. So gifted and talented is really is about the identification. So gifted identification is when we take a student through the process. We have multiple pieces of data that we collect, and then we determine based on the state guidelines whether a child falls into the category to be qualified as gifted in one or more areas. So we did a Facebook Live about gifted identification. So there's lots of information there about how we identify. The next step after we identify a student is creating an advanced learning plan. So every identified gifted student has an advanced learning plan. And what that is a document that is created with teacher, student, parents, and GT facilitator working collaboratively to determine strength-based goals for your child in that particular area of their strength. And then we also create an affective or like social emotional goal additionally, and those are updated annually. So that's what an advanced learning plan is.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. We have another question, and this one asks, are funds available for GT services needed to meet the child's needs off of school campus?
Corey,
That's a Natasha question.
Corey, can you say more about that? I'm not sure I understand the question fully. Oh, okay. Yes. So we do have certain funds and funding sources that we can use to help support classes or courses that are not provided through our typical high schools. So it would really be a conversation with your high school, and also you can contact one of us to talk about what your options are internally. If we cannot provide what your child needs through our system, either at your child's school or another school campus in Douglas County, like I said, we can work with different funding sources to try to support that class or course through concurrent enrollment and or alternative educational options.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to go and check this other email box one more time, and we don't have any questions in there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the session. So thank you very much to everyone for watching, for engaging, for asking such wonderful questions. And I also want to thank Heather and Natasha for joining us and providing us such wonderful information. So thank you very much to everyone. And I also want to let you know that we are going to have another DCAGT Live. It's on Wednesday, February the 24th, and we're going to have a very special guest, Dr. Kate Bechtel, and she's going to be talking to us about parenting our gifted children during this difficult time. So please write that down on your calendar. And then I am also going to put a little survey in the chat box. I would ask if you all would take just a few moments to complete this very short survey. We want to be able to improve and provide you the information that you all need. So thank you again very much to everyone. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Natasha. And we hope to see you all again on February 24th, where we'll have Dr. Kate Bechtel. So thank you.